Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're not just taking a trip back in time. We're going to pull apart one of Warren Buffett's most insightful shareholder letters to build a practical, powerful framework that you can actually use as a professional investor. So back in 1991, Berkshire Hathaway posted this number, a 39.6% gain in net worth. I mean, what a year, right? But look, as any of us in the business know, the real gold is never just the headline number. The most important lesson was buried way deeper in that letter. You see, the real lesson was in this challenge. How in the world do you keep winning when your own success actually makes the game harder? Buffett's answer is just a masterclass in capital allocation and thinking for the long haul, and that's what we're going to deconstruct today. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. We're going to walk through these 5 core ideas from the letter, and the goal here is to pull out the mental models that you can apply directly to your own investment process. Let's start with a really powerful shift in perspective. First up, Buffett introduces this fantastic tool. It's all about shifting your focus away from the chaotic day-to-day noise of market prices and onto the real underlying earning power of the companies you own. And he calls it look-through earnings. You know, it's a concept that's really designed to force you to think like a business owner who actually cares about profits, not like a stock picker who's just glued to the ticker tape. And this is what that looks like in practice. Now, what's so powerful about this approach is that it gives you a much truer picture of performance. It makes you focus on the real playing field, the combined earnings power of the businesses you actually own, not that distracting daily scoreboard of stock prices going up and down. So here's the bottom line. The question you should be asking isn't, how are my stocks doing today? The real question is, are the underlying earnings of my portfolio companies actually compounding in a meaningful way for the long term? Because that is the real engine of value. All right, so that brings us to the next logical question. How do you find the kinds of businesses that can deliver those compounding earnings year after year? Well, that's where we get to what might be the single most important idea in the entire letter, understanding the massive difference between a great economic franchise and just a business. And this table just lays it out perfectly. A franchise, it has a durable economic moat, right? It's got pricing power, and it can even survive some bad decisions. A regular business, on the other hand, is in this constant, brutal fight for survival, where one wrong move, and it could be game over. Now, Buffett saw this happen in real time with media companies. They used to be these untouchable franchises. But then, as consumer choices for news and entertainment just exploded, their moats started to dry up. Their economics started to look a whole lot more like a regular, tough, competitive business. You contrast that with the perfect example of a franchise, See's Candies. This business grew its profits by 10 times over 20 years, all while gushing cash. And here's the key, the magic trick. It needed almost no additional capital to get that growth. And that is the hallmark of a truly great franchise. The profits can be taken out and put to work somewhere else to compound. Now, for us as investors, this difference between a franchise and a business, it has a massive, massive impact on valuation. And Buffett shows us how with some incredibly simple but really powerful math. So first, imagine you own a franchise that's going to grow its earnings at a nice, steady 6% a year. And, this is the important part, it doesn't need any new capital to do it. Think of the See's Candies model. Okay, so if you use a pretty standard 10% discount rate, that predictable, capital-light stream of growing cash is worth a 25 times earnings multiple. That's a premium valuation, and it's reserved for a truly premium asset. But what happens if we change just one little assumption? What if those earnings aren't growing so steadily? What if, like most businesses, they just kind of bob around the same level? The valuation absolutely collapses, down to a 10 times multiple. That's a 60% haircut. You see, understanding which type of asset you own isn't just some academic exercise. It is everything when it comes to getting the valuation right. So let's say you are skilled enough, or maybe just lucky enough, to find one of these great franchises. What do you do with it? Well, Buffett's strategy is almost shockingly simple. You do almost nothing. He drives this point home with a quote from John Maynard Keynes. Basically, real risk management isn't about owning a tiny piece of everything. It's about deep knowledge and high conviction in a few truly great companies. It's about smart concentration, not just frantic diversification. Buffett is famous for arguing that hyperactivity is the absolute enemy of great returns. He sees the stock market as this giant machine for moving money from the active to the patient.
He even jokes that calling institutions that trade constantly investors is like calling someone who dates a new person every night a romantic.
And that brings us to our final point, which honestly might be the most powerful lesson in this entire letter. And it doesn't come from a victory, it comes from a moment of failure. A really important reminder that even the absolute masters of the game make mistakes. So, Buffett poses this question, and it's one that every single one of us should be asking ourselves constantly. And the answer, well, it's not what you probably think. It's not about the bad stocks you bought, it's something else entirely. That's the rough number. That's the gain that Berkshire missed out on because they didn't follow through on a high conviction idea to buy Fannie Mae stock. I mean, he understood the business inside and out, he knew the management was top notch, but he got frustrated because the price was ticking up a bit and he stopped buying. It's a classic sin of omission. And that, right there, is the final crucial takeaway. For great investors, the most expensive errors are not the sins of commission, the bad investments you make. They are the sins of omission, the truly incredible investments you fail to make because you hesitated. Which leaves us with just one question to think about. What incredible business are you failing to act on right now?